Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm looking at the 2014 to 2015 series Aquaman and the Others. In 2012, during Aquaman's solo New 52 series, Geoff Johns introduced 5 new characters to help expand on Aquaman's universe. This included Prisoner of War, often just called Prisoner, a former US soldier who fought in Iraq and who can call upon his dead comrades in arms to help him fight. Vostok X, a former Russian cosmonaut, Joshua Cole, aka the Operative, your kinda generic super thief type, with the exception that he's really old and has some kind of super suit that lets him keep moving like a young man. Kahina the Seer, a Muslim woman with the ability to, well, see the future. And Yawara, a woman who grew up in the Brazilian rainforest and has the ability to control animals. Sort of. And has the ability to be sexy. Yeah. Cause I'm sure growing up in the rainforest away from all civilization is going to have no ill effects on your teeth, skin, hair, or body shape. Nope. It's definitely gonna make you look like this. In what little background we're given on the characters, we know that Aquaman and Yawara had some deep psychic connection in their early days together. And I'm sure you can guess the implications there. Because Mera sure can. Yeah, because what we really needed was a love triangle to offer even more proof that Arthur isn't good enough for Mera. When Arthur and the others got together initially, 6 years before the start of Aquaman's New 52 comic, they were trying to stop Black Manta from getting his hands on the 6 relics of the dead king, the first king of Atlantis. These include Arthur's trident with unspecified powers of undoubted badassery, Kahina's Seal of Clarity, which translates languages and helps her better understand her visions of the future, Yawara's Golden Globe, which lets her teleport anywhere around, the globe, Vostok X's Atlantean helmet, which allows its wearer to not need food, water, or air, Prisoner's manacles, which can be banged together like negabands to create force fields of energy, and the Operative's key, which can unlock basically anything a key would literally or metaphorically unlock. After spending an entire arc of the comic having Arthur come to terms with his past, learning to once again accept his place on the team, swearing that he'll never abandon them again, and joining them in dealing with Black Manta, the others disappear from his title and are never seen again. But that's okay, I guess, because DC then went on to give the others their own comic. Which is this one, obviously. Now, given how little we know about the others, one would probably expect that their book would jump back into the past so we could learn about who they are, how they got together, and what their actual goal was in regards to the treasures in Black Manta. But no. Instead, the comic picks up where the main Aquaman series leaves off, which, considering that the 2 characters I found most interesting, Kahina and Vostok X, already were killed during that earlier story, I am considerably less excited about. So let's find out if the remaining living characters will sink or swim on their own and take this away. The comic opens like we're in a cold open for the X-Files, complete with it being dead of night, there being a mysteriously dead animal, a farmer with a gun, and a monster. And oh boy, it's a skinwalker. Does this mean we're going to be getting potentially uncomfortable depictions of Native American culture in an attempt to bring diversity to this book? Yes, it does. That'll mainly come from Sky, a Native American girl living in Arizona. Sky sees dead people and is also able to communicate with them and even enter a ghost realm protected by spirits she calls the lightning beings. Also, Sky's mama was murdered by Sky's uncle, an evil businessman selling out Native American values to the even more evil white men. You know how white men be. Evil uncle is also the skinwalker from the opening, and he got his hands on an Atlantean gauntlet that can punch through walls. One of the various Atlantean artifacts lost during the Throne of Atlantis arc that Scavenger was picking up from the bottom of the ocean. And I do mean artifact, not talisman. They do pause in the action to clarify that there's a difference. Although the difference is apparently that anything can be an artifact and that talisman are artifacts, so I'm not sure they actually know the difference either. But okay. What with the whole Atlantis attacking the surface world thing, Arthur decides it might be best for Atlanteans to not be seen on the surface fighting bad guys over powerful weaponry. So he asks the others to help in the recovery instead. That brings the group in the operative's giant luxury plane called the Living Room, which is still a weird name for a plane even if you do live there, operative, to Arizona, where Sky is ready to meet them, having been told all about the group and their arrival by the lightning beings and the ghost of Kahina the Seer, who apparently decides to call out Yawara for totally being gay for Kahina, which... what? We've already heavily established in the main series that Yawara basically sees herself as connected to Arthur, so I don't know if this was an attempt to explain just why Yawara was so upset about Kahina's death, or just an attempt to add still more diversity to this already notably diverse group. And I'm not saying someone can't just be bisexual and that just is a part of who they are and it doesn't have to be a big deal, because obviously they can, and to suggest otherwise would be stupid, but since it's basically never mentioned again and yet they repeatedly continue to emphasize a connection between Yawara and Arthur, it really feels like it's being mentioned here so they can toot their own horn about the diversity of their representation. It also does give Sky an in, because Sky so blatantly sharing with everyone this extremely personal information that Yawara never felt comfortable sharing with anyone, convinces Yawara that Kahina did give Sky her blessing to be the next bearer of the Seal of Clarity. And the team needs Sky apparently, because they all bicker and fight like a bunch of newbie teenage superheroes that are only just getting together for the first time, and not a bunch of experienced adults who have been doing this shit for 6 years. Like how Operative insists on referring to Yawara's jaguars as pets even after she clearly explains that they're not pets. Yeah, still not pets, asshole. I guess DC felt having John Ostrander on a team title would guarantee success, seeing as he's half the creative team that launched the Suicide Squad to such acclaim, but this isn't the Suicide Squad, and I don't feel Ostrander's writing style has aged well into modern comic styles. Anyway, Sky leads the team against her skinwalking uncle to get the Atlantean gauntlet back, where she proceeds to basically tell all of them that it's okay to be who they are. The magic was inside of you all along. Sky doesn't officially join the team, but since she can apparently use the Ghost Realm to quick travel around the globe, and since she also apparently develops a fondness for the operative's grandson, Aaron, who seems to primarily be here to spout inappropriately timed snarky meta comments, which, you know, back off, buddy, that's my job. Sky is still in place to join the others on their next adventure, which sees them facing off against Morgan Le Fay. Morgan tries to steal Vostok X's helmet, and yes, a Wicked Witch sends literal flying monkeys to steal a magical object just in case this wasn't on the nose enough for you, which she wants so she can leave Earth, since it's dying due to climate change and she's ready to jump ship. When the helmet rejects her, she instead decides to just kill 500 million people or something. It really says something about how little people understand climate change that it's only villains that are ever worried about it, and their solution is always to punish millions of random people and never the small handful of billionaires and corporations that are actually responsible for the vast majority of greenhouse gas emissions causing it. But yes, I know. You're here for the superhero fights and not the politics, even when it's the comic that brings up the politics to begin with. So here's a picture of King Arthur punching Morgan Le Fay in the face. You're welcome. Morgan Le Fay started out by trying to tempt everyone to her side, succeeding only with Yawara, who at the end of the issue disappears as they're all like, "We can never trust you again." But these two Ostrander issues actually appeared in Aquaman in the first Aquaman annual, and we move from them to the actual The Others title, which is written by Dan Jurgens. And there, everyone's just kinda back together and no mention is made of Yawara's betrayal. But that's probably for the best anyway, cause I don't need my adult superheroes bickering like teenagers on a CW show. So this next arc sees the team, one by one, all discovering that their little treasures aren't working anymore. This is explained by stating that if the relics are separated for too long a period of time, then they lose power, and only recharge once back in the presence of the others. Which means that even if there was drama, the team would be forced to stick together or else give up their little doodads. This also doesn't make any sense because the team has been separated for a matter of days at this point, maybe weeks at most, whereas before they spent 6 years being separated without any ill effects, with Vostok even spending that time on the moon. But yeah, okay. Unfortunately for them, they're learning this as they're being attacked by some off-brand ninjas who are trying to steal their relics because we have to keep the focus on the relics because really that's about all that's interesting about this group at this point. The people behind this are this brother and sister pair who have also kidnapped Seiya, Kahina's sister, unmentioned before this point, who has apparently inherited the family ability to see the future. Though in Seiya's case, that seems to mostly be dreams of an evil robot Justice League destroying the planet, which is just a reference to the upcoming Future's End event that Jurgens was one of the primary authors of, so really it's just him plugging his other book. But since Seiya doesn't follow comic news, she doesn't know what the visions mean and everyone just thinks she's crazy. The evil sister and brother team here, Daria and Anton Solikov, explain what's going on. It seems that when Atlan was making his 6 relics to get revenge on Atlantis, as we saw in Aquaman, he murdered a man protecting something called the Gold of Legacy, and stole it in order to use it in the creation of the weapons. The man's son made it his life's work to retrieve the gold, even finding a way to extend his life for such a long time that he reached a point where his body couldn't take it anymore. And then still managed to extend it further by putting his spirit into a long series of cool steampunk robots. Now calling himself Legend and just barely avoiding infringing on Richard Matheson copyright. Oh, nope, never mind, guess they couldn't help themselves. Legend has led his descendants into working with him to get their gold back from Aquaman and the others. But the heroes, I guess, don't want to give back the gold and fight the Solikovs, though they're apparently heavily outgunned and Arthur gets stabbed in the gut by his own trident and Sky sends Yawara off to the Ghostlands to protect her. There, Yawara runs across the ghost of Kahina and Vostok X, who send her bang zoom to the moon. No, really. Because apparently there's an entire Russian cosmonaut base on the moon, and in that base is a weird pod, and inside that pod is another Vostok? Does that make him Vostok what? This new Vostok initially attacks Yawara until she gets the helmet on him, but even though he recognizes her after that, he'll seem to not know much about his past or who he really is. Vostok next then joins Yawara as she teleports back to Castle Solikov, and they manage to turn the fight back against the Gold Keepers. Sky and Yawara even heal Aquaman by just tossing him into a magic pool that they had just lying around the palace, because every quality evil castle has at least one perfectly plot convenient magic pool lying around. Everyone knows that. The revived Aquaman sticks his trident through Legend, breaking the magic holding him together, and we get that old comic book justification for whenever anyone dies on page. Oh, he was actually dead long ago. That seems so dismissively reductionist to the definition of life, but heaven forbid people think our hero actually killed a bad guy. With Seiya and the new Vostok on the team, the ghost of Kahina and the other Vostok leave to go beyond the spirit realm, and Sky goes home because heaven forbid we have a Native American on the team. And it turns out, Seiya and Vostok 2 Electric Boogaloo aren't exactly sold on being members of this team either. Seiya feels she has a duty to her sister's family, who she wants to help take care of, and Vostok is, I don't know, alone I guess? But he won't have to worry about that for much longer, as we get the appearance of old Soviet character KG Beast. Yep, that's right, DC has an actual character named KG Beast. And there's a lot of jokes you could make about that name, and that is not one of them, Cole. That is not one of them. Beast wants a flash drive that Cole stole at the beginning of Jurgens' run, and he's teamed up with a bunch of other villains to get it. This includes the assassin Cheshire, a living storm system named Maelstrom, and a few other returning versions of very minor obscure DC supervillains that really aren't important but will also kind of be around as well, so, like, here they are, I guess. Vostok randomly shows up to help Cole, also dropping Colossus's favorite word when he does, but finds himself tempted by KG Beast, who apparently knows a lot about who and what Vostok is. So after Cheshire, Beast, and Maelstrom escape with the flash drive, Vostok finds himself getting fed up with the others and their insistence that he's a copy, not the original, and flies off to the moon to his old base, where Mayhem, as they're apparently calling themselves, have set up shop. It turns out what is on the flash drive is the codes to an old Soviet nuclear program satellite system that the bad guys can use to hold the world hostage for, $1 million or some other undoubtedly nefarious plan. The operative attempts to infiltrate an old Soviet facility for some BS reason about needing a system old enough that it can interface with the nuclear satellite so he can shut it down before Mayhem uses it, but it seems there's another connection on the team to KG Beast, as Prisoner was there one day long ago when the operative and Beast previously came across each other. In Prisoner's buddy Korik, who was also there, was shot down by Cole. I mean, nobody's anybody until you have a secret past history with KG Beast, am I right? The spirit of Korik, residing inside Prisoner, claims Cole shot him down in cold blood, and Prisoner remembers the event as Korik taking the bullet for him. But in reality, Korik was a Soviet traitor working with KG Beast that was supposed to help him get away. Now he has a second chance of life by somehow taking over Prisoner, something I didn't think was really how Prisoner's powers work, but okay. And so now we have two traitors on the team. After trying to kill the operative, Korik pretends to subside and let Prisoner take control again, which has gotta be the worst ruse I've ever seen, and Cole and Yawara would have to be absolute idiots to buy it. Which is why it's not surprising that after they do seem to buy it and Cole very obviously finishes his mission in front of Prisoner, this all turned out to be a ruse as well. As Korik tries to send the codes he sees the operative use to Mayhem, it turns out he's actually transmitting a virus. Before they lose all control though, they manage to launch one missile at a random location on Earth. Mayhem gets transported down to Earth so we can have one of those big comic book fights, but Vostok gets left behind on the moon, and it seems he's had a change of heart after learning his true origins. It seems he was genetically engineered along with the other Vostoks, and they were each boys from Brazil into different homes to live very different lives, to see which upbringing would make for the most perfect warrior. This Vostok was raised in an abusive household, which is intended to explain his anger problems. Learning his history has chilled him out some though, and he decides to end it all, managing somehow to reprogram the missile, despite the fact that the controls were supposed to be locked out by the virus, and then aims it straight for his own moon base. But Yawara decides he deserves to continue living, and manages to teleport him out of there at the last second with her teleport globe. That's where the story ends, but we get two bonus issues tying into the New 52's Future End story, which is set 5 years in the future following a devastating war with Darkseid and Apocalypse. Aquaman as king decided to get Atlantis into the war, and the Undersea Kingdom suffered horribly because of it. To help raise awareness of their plight to the surface world in hopes of gaining some humanitarian aid, Aquaman builds a surface world station, which has apparently taken years, even though just after this he'll build Spindrift Station in like a week. Oh well. Many Atlanteans, particularly Volko and Mera, are downright sick of Arthur for his leading them to destruction during the war and is building a station on the surface. So they rebel against him and reveal a new king, same as the old king, because using yet another artifact of the dead king, a shield this time, Volko raises Atlan back from the dead. Again. How many damn artifacts were there? Also, with Mera having turned against him, Aquaman has apparently rekindled his relationship with Yawara. Because if there's one thing fans love, it's seeing popular couples divided by executive decisions that reduce their relationship down to petty surface level jealousy. Honestly, I think this was primarily done to put some extra credibility to Cole and Bunn's upcoming Aquaman arc, where Mera seemed to be betraying Aquaman before it turned out that she was actually Siren, but that doesn't make this decision any more enjoyable. The dead king ends up being stopped not by any of our heroes, but instead by the now adult Eren, who takes on all the relics of the others at once for no particular reason to become the Other. Singular. Yay? And now that we've reached the end of both the present and the future, let's get to the breakdown. Well, this comic was clearly the product of people who had little interest or stake in the characters or story, just doing their job to carry on Geoff Johns' little pet project that he decided for whatever reason not to work on himself. And honestly, it's a shame, because I think it's something that could have worked. As I mentioned in the intro, I think this series would have been best served by going into the past and introducing us to these people and how they got together. Certainly the most interesting part of the whole series for me was the brief glimpse into Vostok's past that we got. Failing that, if it absolutely had to take place in the present, it should have been Mera in The Others, with Arthur asking Mera to lead the team, and then at least we could get some development of the unnecessary and petty jealousy between her and Yawara that makes no sense considering this series' inability to pick whether Yawara was totally more into Kahina than Arthur, or just completely goo-goo-eyed over the King of Atlantis, and see that conflict become respect and friendship. Not to mention the fact that it would have been great just to see more Mera kicking ass. Instead, though, we got this. So yeah, I'm giving this series a recommendation level of low. It's still not the worst New 52 series I've read, and if you really want to know more about these characters, then feel free, but don't go in expecting a whole lot. The collected editions get one Black Manta helmet and one Aquaman trident, which is starting at bad and moving all the way up to meh. That breaks down simple enough. The first volume is 6 issues and 1 annual, from Aquaman. This series didn't get any annuals, and had no bonuses whatsoever. The second volume is 8 issues, if you include the 2 Futures End tie-ins, and has about a dozen pages of bonus sketches, which are actually kinda cool, so, you know, I'll give it a break. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm working really hard to try and get back on schedule, and hopefully we'll be seeing the results of that. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe so that you can be sure to be here next time. And I hope to see you then, right here, in the Comic Cave.